You talked about a little bit, Elvis, about like being skeptical in the beginning. Like, what were you skeptical about? Because I think a lot of parents are, right, in the beginning, rightfully so, because there's a lot of, to be honest, there's a lot of garbage out there these days, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, what were you skeptical about specifically? And then, like, how did you overcome that skepticism, I guess?
But of course, there's the financial commitment, and I just wanted to know what does that entail? What do I get for that? What am I paying for exactly? It's a lot of, it's one thing to see a price and then pay and not know what you're gonna get.
Mm,
So, I think after the call with you and after, you gave us, the lowdown, I guess, it was pretty obvious, and, I did look around and, I saw some comments. Obviously you're always going to have your negative comments, but I think the positive outweigh the negative, you know?
mm.
So, I was content after my conversation with you personally. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what about you, Jacob? Like, obviously you were part of the process when we were having those initial conversations. Um, what was going through your mind? And like, were you and your dad kind of on the same page in terms of like, yeah, this is kind of the program that I would like to do, or like, what were your thoughts there? Or were you also kind of skeptical? Like,
Yeah, I guess I would say I was a bit skeptical because, yes, financial commitment, but there's also, a time commitment. I'm someone that, like, if I'm going to commit to something, I got to be part of it, especially something like this. But, would definitely, I remember this super vividly. It was, I'm not sure if it was the informational call or if this is a separate call, but we were together and you actually pulled the, oh, I'm sorry, before I even get into that, I did want to mention what I was probably most skeptical about is like, how effective is it? Like, does it really work? Like, yeah, maybe this guy places a couple of kids, but how effective is this? And I do
mm,
remember, this vanished. I thought vanished when you had us on a meeting and you actually had data, you had charts of kids in each year when they joined placements into each tier of the banks. And I was like, wow, really broken it up. You gave us an estimate of how many students have been a part of the program, how much it's been growing. And that's not something I could have found online. That's something you kind of dug in the weeds, showed us. It was
mm.
very professional. And definitely, kind of resolved the worry in my mind. That probably was my biggest skepticism, but that definitely, helped banish thought.
That's funny. Yeah, like I'm a numbers guy, right? So I like to I think data, and I think more logically. And so personally, when I make purchase decisions, I'm the same way. It's like if I can see actual data, then that makes me feel a lot better. But I think also, um, it's funny that you say that because sometimes it's like if the results are too good, then people kind of become more skeptical because they're like, this is too good to be true or whatever. Like we hear that sometimes, and it's like kind of a double-edged sword. So it's like,
Something that also did it for me was your testimonials. That you
mm,
actually, I
That is
saw
true.
other
Yeah.
students and I saw videos of other parents as well, but mostly the students, and I think I love to hear the stories. I loved hearing the stories about, the guy from the non-target that had maybe like a substandard GPA, how he was able to, to get in with your help. So when you hear stories like that, it's like, well, so something has to work, something has to be
yeah.
working.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think because you mentioned like obviously there's some negative comments online, right? Like if you go on like certain if you look hard enough, like there's always going to be the haters that say like, oh, this program must be a scam or this program is whatever. Like they just teach you stuff that you can already find on Google.
Yeah.
The funny thing, and I do think a lot of people get scared off by that actually, and so I think like the thing that I want to say about you guys is you guys still did your own due diligence. I think a lot of people don't even bother to do the due diligence once they see any negative comments because they're like, okay, like they automatically just and I get it. It's a scary thing, right? It's like, oh well, I'm not even gonna waste my time looking into this. Um, but unfortunately, like in this day and age with the internet, and obviously now you guys are on the other side, so you had the benefit of hindsight, but it's like truly like anyone can say anything these days online, and it's like we live in a world where Democrats say one thing, Republicans say another thing, and both sides say the other side is lying, and like you read the news and everyone's like fake news and you don't know like who's telling the truth, right? And I think here it's kind of the same, which is we have our supporters, we have our detractors, but the thing I always tell people is that when you live in a world like this where there's two sides that are saying like completely opposite things, one of the most important skills that is actually required is just your own critical thinking skills in terms of like being able to sift through the bullshit, excuse my language, and like get to the bottom of like who's telling the truth, right? And the way I kind of like tell people to think about it is like, think about like everyone's usually just like self-interested, right? Like everyone's gonna like just look out for their own best interests. And so if you look at like who's on each side, all the people that are saying negative things about a program are people that are online and they admit that they've never used the program. They admit that, yeah, we talked to the company, thought it was too expensive. These guys are total scammers, blah, 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 even though they never used it. So I don't know how they know that we're scammers, but that's fine. On the other side is, to your point, these testimonials of students that have actually gone through the program, have already gotten jobs, and they're like publicly endorsing a program that they went through. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, the people that decide not to use the program, they don't want you to use the program because then it makes their job harder to get a job because they're not using the program, right? And so like what they have no incentive to be like, hey, I'm not going to use the program, but everyone else should go use the program because it sounds great. Versus the people that have already gone through it and already gotten their jobs, like to you, Jacob, like it doesn't really matter that much if someone else decides to use this program or not, because like you already have your job, right? And also, by the way, we haven't talked about like the outcome was like you got an amazing offer, right? Which we can talk about in a second, but like you got an amazing offer, and someone like you who's got a bright future, you got all your success ahead of you, like you're not going to go out there and publicly endorse a program that's like not legitimate. Like what do you have to gain by doing that? In fact, you have a lot to lose, if you lie about that kind of stuff. And so it's just like, that's what I mean by critical thinking skills, is like if you really just thought about who's saying what and why are they saying those things, does it make sense that they're saying those things, then it should be pretty easy to like really get to the bottom of like what's real or what's not, right? Or even just like at least do your own due diligence and talk to the team, talk to the people that are running the program, talk to other students that have done the program, like talk to like real human beings as opposed to like jumping to conclusions, right? Elvis, I feel like you have something you want to say, but
No, I was when you first started, talking about, the doubt. It's so easy for you just to jump on a call. I I saw your ads, or I did my research. I think I spoke to you that same day, and it took me minutes. I think I sent an email or something. I think you set up a call for the following day, and I think we spoke the next day, and that's it. That it took 24 hours maybe for me to get what I needed to know to make a decision. And a lot
yeah.
of people, you know, and that should apply to everything. Buying a car, choosing a school. Just reach out and ask questions.
Yeah,
You
for
know.
sure. Yeah, doing your due diligence is important. And like, I mean, I really view this as an investment. And I think most parents and students that join our program view it as an investment too, right? As in like, it's like picking a college, that's an investment, right? You pay a bunch of money to go to school with the hopes that it will improve your future job prospects. At least that's how most people think about it. And so that's an investment, as in you're expecting to see some sort of return on that investment, whether it's a good return or bad return, like to be determined, right? But just like any investment you make, like you're not going to invest a bunch of money in something without actually doing your homework, right? Or hopefully you're not. Like, I mean, some people when they buy stocks, they just kind of gamble, but like the right way to do it is like to actually study what you're investing in and like get as much information as you can and then make an informed decision. And this is kind of no different, right? It's just like we always, a lot of times, like the students will hop on calls with us and the parents don't. Um, but we always love it when the parents actually hop on the call with us too, because then they can ask questions themselves and they can, be informed about how the recruiting process works and what exactly it is that their kids are going to get out of this program, as opposed to just like writing the check. A lot of parents just write the check and they don't really know like what they're writing a check for, right? Which is fine, but also like some parents just say no, like I won't write the check. And it's almost like the way I think about it is kind of weird because you already invested so much in your kids' education over the last whatever, 10 to 15, 10 to 12 years since they've been in school. And the whole point of you doing that is to set them up for the best future possible. And then now you're like, on the 5 yard line, and there's just like one last thing that you're deciding whether it's worth doing or not. And then like you won't do your due diligence about that. It's like, why stop here? Right.